All right, what is up, everybody? I got a triple espresso, and I'm ready to go sit down and watch this New World development update for October 2025, which I've got ready to go here behind me. This is a roughly 1 hour and a half video that went live this morning, talking about everything that's coming down the pipeline for New World Aeternum's Nighthaven update and Season 10, which we have currently been prepping for play New World Aeternum for the past week or so. We've been doing some casual playing at nighttime. So we're going to start off the stream tonight, barring no technical difficulties. We're going to watch this for the next hour and a half with some pausing and reactions from me, discussions with our community as we watch this, and then we're going to go from this into playing some New World Aeternum. That is the plan. Triple espresso, ready to go. Let's make sure we're good on the volumes. Click play and let's sink our teeth into this video. This is the trailer, as I understand it.
Come, wanderer. The gods foretold of your arrival.
I can dig it.
They show a dark force that guides your path. Ah, I see you thought fortune was on your side. But even the most coveted gifts can become a curse.
Ooh, spiders, bears, vampires, werewolves, baby.
Now the cards fall silent. All is darkness.
Discover a new region. New raid, Isle of Night. That's creepy. New mode, Catacombs. These are like scalable dungeons, as I understood them. Underwater? I just saw underwater. New progression systems. Yeah, but I saw underwater swimming.
You may try to defeat the darkness, but you cannot escape the night.
New World Aeternum Nighthaven. I can't wait, guys. We are prepped and ready to go. That's the intro.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Season 10 Dev Update. I'm Katie.
I'm Dan.
And we are super excited to bring you a slightly different version of our developer update. This time we are going to be entirely focused on Season 10 and deep diving into the very cool features and content that the team is bringing you. So let's get into it.
Do I need to fix that resolution?
So we're going to start off talking about the new zone, Nighthaven. I'm here with David.
Why is it doing
Jordan.
low quality? Hang on. Changing that over. It was auto going down to 440p for some odd reason. Hang on. What internet am I on? Well, we should be fine. Technical difficulties. I may need to switch the internet. We'll see here in a second. That's on my end, not them, because it's obviously taking a minute to load this video. I'm going to refresh it and see what happens.
YouTube videos, but I want to clarify.
So we're going to start off talking about the new zone, Nighthaven. I'm here with David, Jordan, Nathan, Nix, and Richard. And we're going to dive into the zone, its aesthetics, its inspiration. I'm going to start with you, David. So the last big zone you worked on this directly was Brimstone, right?
Yeah. Brimstone, where, if you remember, was lots of sweeping horizontal vistas, blasting sun dunes, very barren. This zone, Nighthaven, is quite the opposite, almost the antithesis.
Yes, it is.
There are large, sweeping pine tree forests with castles popping out like the teeth of a beast or something.
Yes.
It's a very verticality-focused zone.
Nice.
And it's also our love letter to classic and modern horror, where, if you remember, Nightville Hollow was a very campy 80s aesthetic. Nighthaven is much more elegant, much more refined. It's a celebration of the ugly, the dark.
You always use the word macabre.
Yes, macabre, absolutely.
I like that one.
This is a zone where we say spiders are cool, and the moon is awesome.
Yeah.
And exactly.
Shout out to the moon.
Yeah. And there's so many secrets in Nighthaven that we can't talk about all of them today, but we would love to.
We'll try to scratch the surface.
That's what's hard is like filming this. Like, I don't know what we could say, what we can't. You know.
Don't
So
worry.
I'm just gonna say some stuff to riff off that. Like I think to break it down to what like from a player perspective it is, you're gonna get things that you don't get in other zones in New World, right? We have underground dungeons that we call catacombs. We have these big towering castles that are multi-layered that you get to explore throughout, and there's hidden rooms and stuff like that, and all sorts of like different gimmicks and things within them.
Thanks,
we have
Napier.
you mentioned spiders. We have these spider caves that are scary, honestly, especially if you have arachnophobia.
They literally make our coworkers' skin crawl.
A bit.
Yeah.
They look so good.
And then we have like all sorts of other like caves that fit different creatures that we've created for this specific zone, and more. So it's exciting, and it's brand new, and it's fresh content.
So the visuals are so striking, but like, Jordan and Richard, why don't you start telling us about how you developed it?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think about like what you said with the diversity of the POIs in Nighthaven. Like we have these sweeping Gothic vistas,
I
pine
like that
forests,
bridge.
spider caves.
I think for like a lot of that type of visuals, it could be easy to like rely on like just like fog and you know, making everything blue and whatnot. But we really tried to like utilize different types of like creepy aesthetics throughout the zone. So
Yeah, there's a bunch of creepy things, spider webs and all that, and there's also apples.
Don't trust the apples,
where are the apples
probably.
There is a segment of the zone that is an homage to Eastern Europe, and you'll see apple orchards, pumpkin fields,
Garlic stuff hanging
beautiful
everywhere.
villages.
Yeah.
Even our graveyards look like nothing else we've ever done.
It would be
before.
in the first village you visit, you know.
yeah,
Shout out to the apples.
yeah.
I would say like, during the concept process, like, generally it could be linear, but we took a very active approach with all the different teams. We were constantly going back and forth with our world building team.
That's a cool looking musket.
Our environment artists with design, really thinking like how does gameplay like drive like this process of the POIs, and use that as a guiding force.
Okay, hold
Actually,
up.
I
You
lost
guys
my
been
thought.
talking about all the stuff
Yeah, yeah.
above the ground.
We gotta-
right. There's this
Dig deep.
great zone above the terrain where everywhere you go, you see beautiful vistas, you see liminal spaces, uncanny vibes.
Apples.
But yeah, there's apples. But there's a bunch of things happening underneath the ground as well in what we called the underworld. So. The underworld is a completely different experience from your usual New World POIs. The moment you step in, it will feel like a very conscious, almost Souls-like journey. And from moment to moment, you'll see a path ahead, but the door couldn't be open from your side. You might discover a hidden path that ultimately leads you to a high ground, which you saw, but couldn't get to before, and not to mention there's a bunch of collectibles, so you kind of have to visit every hidden places in the underworld. Yeah, and not to mention there's also very unique, distinct areas you've never seen before in New World, such as a very heavy dark fog that just have these shadow enemies. You cannot see their health bar, no names, you can barely see them attacking you.
We call them nightmares, right?
Yeah. So, and the other part of the underworld is filled with water. You kind of have to swim underneath the water and start exploring.
Underwater
Dodge
exploration.
the lasers, go through the water maze.
Oh, I know people have been asking for
There's
this
a lot
for
of
a
invisible
long
secrets as
time
well,
in New
but
World. Is
we'll get
underwater
into that later.
exploration.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, I think it's important to note this is the biggest zone we've done, right?
Biggest zone we've done?
We had to fill that space. Most of it, I mean, there's all sorts of things, quests that take you all over the place to collect different things. And all sorts of different POIs that aren't.
There have been some
strictly
massive zones in
MSQ,
this game.
different quest lines and things like that.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
technically
impressive.
it's
Exploring.
bigger than Brimstone and more POIs than Brimstone.
Yeah.
More lore notes than any zone we've ever done.
Verticality.
That's
Yes.
impressive.
Oh, verticality! I got to talk about the jump pads.
Yeah.
Jump pads.
Yeah,
The
that's-
OPR team, when they make Capture the Flag, they made these awesome jump pads,
Yeah.
which became a pretty important way to traverse the open world.
Which we intend to go into a little bit more detail later on, and maybe we should go ahead and get started doing that. So thanks again for this great discussion, and can't wait for you guys to play Nighthaven. Okay, with that, we're going to move on and talk about one of the things that makes the zone really unique and special, and that's gimmicks. So with me again are David, Nathan, and Nix, and now we also have Austin in the mix.
Yeah, I can't.
And
it's
so
looking
let's
awesome,
get started.
JDO.
So gimmicks. What is a gimmick?
So gimmick is our in-house word for interactable. It's the things that players touch or play with.
Yes.
It's how you interact with the world.
And it all started with verticality for the zone, right?
Yeah, Nighthaven, much like I said earlier, is the opposite of Brimstone. So in Nighthaven, it's all about looking up. The most important lesson in Nighthaven is look up, and that's something really hard to teach. So
it's hard to make players look up. So to solve that, you drop an axe on their head.
Exactly. We enforced every mechanic, every gimmick, every interactable to reinforce that theme of looking up.
Yes.
And it really all started with falling chandeliers, right, Austin?
Yeah. So one of the things that when we were deciding to do gimmicks for the zone, we had always had gimmicks with New World, except before Nighthaven, gimmicks were more of a barrier or a way to pace out a POI, and they didn't feel good. They didn't feel great. They were more of a way of making a POI more memorable, even if the gameplay wasn't all up to snuff. One of the most recent examples I have is like having a cannon blow up a cave type thing.
Yes.
And while it's cool and bombastic, it didn't really serve much of a gameplay purpose besides burying the player, right? So for Nighthaven, we really wanted to make our gimmicks shine through gameplay, have interconnectivity with all sorts of different gimmicks, and it did start with the Falling Chandelier. With the Falling Chandelier, you have the opportunity to actually shoot it and use it to your advantage in combat, because you can drop it on enemies' heads, or if you miss it and forget to look up, you can also have it drop on your head. And that's where it really started. Then it started to expand with all sorts of other gimmicks.
When was it that we discovered throwables as an alternative?
As an alternative, we probably discovered it
In Cutlass Keys, right?
Yeah, Cutlass.
With the lightning fields.
Yeah, which
was you.
That was also me. So the lightning fields was kind of like the catalyst, being able to use throwables as a real means of, gameplay enriching type of mechanic.
What you all group has done with the zone, like, is things like this, like, hey, we've got throwables. What can we do with this now? Can we like remix it like 5 different ways?
Yeah.
And now we have a lot of new flammable gimmicks. So if you're an arachnophobe, I highly recommend grabbing a fire staff or
Which are
socket
always
a ruby.
conveniently placed nearby.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
I've been
and
asking for torches for a long
including the
time, and it
throwable
looks like we're
torches.
getting torches.
Just burn
Eradicate.
everything to the ground, right?
Yes.
But
burn
it
to the
sounds like
ground.
they're only going to be
from
in
the
an
orbit.
We won't
instance case.
spoil everything about every gimmick in the zone.
Because they're calling it a
but
gimmick as
just
opposed to a
know
permanent
that if you
feature.
see webs, fire's probably a good idea to have
Yeah,
around.
it looks like these
And
are going to be
rat
like
nests,
temporary
too.
items. that you get.
Thematically, yeah, like, that's not a spoiler, but like there's like one of the first bookcases you see is of course a secret door. You push it.
Speaking of doors, we solved the door problem by adding more doors. We've got bookcase doors, metal doors, wooden doors. We've
Trap
got,
doors.
locked doors by magic, which we'll get into the Arcana Tarot.
Yes. Let's get into it.
Yeah,
What is that? What's Arcana?
So if you remember the ancient glyphs, we took that system and went even further with it by infusing it with the 22 major arcana plus a few Eternian twists and secrets, and you'll go around the zone collecting those. There are special tarot towers that are spread throughout the zone,
Okay.
which are locked by these cards.
Sweet.
And the Fortune Mother Anru, who is one new character, will teach you all about that.
Yeah.
But that's one of our other major elements of the zone.
They're also they're used in unique combinations to open the elite chests throughout the area.
Yeah. We took the glyph lock system from the beast glyphs, the ancient glyphs, and now you'll find these caches throughout the zone left by the Fortune Mother, which you can unlock with unique combinations of those cards. And we went even further with hiding those cards in the zone secretly. So
Yes.
it's a really, really awesome long end tail of the collectible system in this zone.
Often involving using jump pads, which we talked about in the last segment. But
Yes,
Yeah.
jump heads are big.
Try to use jump pads and your own discovery instead of watching a 7-minute YouTube video to just figure out where all they all are, because I know you guys are all smart. You guys want to share every location, but there's certain fun and charm to go through those jump past puzzles and explore everything yourself.
I'm so glad you said that, because I think out in the community we all kind of know, like, do yourself a favor, don't like try to rush to max level. Don't try to rush through
Please.
it. Just enjoy the journey.
Can I pause this for a second?
Try. Just try not to.
Can I pause this for a second? Just listen to what he just said. Don't rush to max level. Stop. Stop it. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people who work on creating games like this and zones like this. There are literally thousands of man hours that go into creating art assets, VFX assets, sound effects, music composition, voiceovers, the quest writing, dubbing, the physics, the engineering, the animations. Don't rush the experience. Stop rushing to max level. Take the time, explore what's there. It's a curse that some people have with just rush, go, 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 go. So I love that messaging that they just dropped there.
Google the answer. Just or at least ask in global chat. Make it a thing. We talked about it briefly in the last segment, but another gimmick is the underwater stuff, right?
Yeah. So
underwater.
We talked about jumping high up and going through this high verticality towers and stuff. But how about diving down? How about you swim underneath the water
exploration,
and,
man.
Dodge through lasers, finding out where the shiny golden gatherables
people have been asking this for a long time.
Come back up to go through a water jet, which boosts you back up to higher places. You also have these interesting water elevators that lifts you up to places you couldn't reach before.
That's cool, man.
And all of those combined, it's not a ton of gameplay, it's not a ton of combat, but it's an interesting way to get through your objectives.
It's exploration.
It's crazy that we, just a year of not having swimming, and now we're already going underwater.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Underwater really. That's the coolest thing.
Like I was telling you before,
Owen Fit 514 asks on Twitch, is there a platform that's better to support it? Wherever you want. YouTube, Twitch,
toy to play with as you travel through. So
wherever you want to drop a sub or a super chat or a membership or
Let's
a bit
talk
cheer,
about the characters of Nighthaven. So with me, I have Paul, Kiana, and Mike. And we're going to be discussing some of the process to get these characters to you, as well as some of the characters. So essentially, we're entering Nighthaven. We don't want to give too much away. I'm just going to say that, as we want a lot of this to be an exciting surprise for players on when they enter Nighthaven, that they get to be excited as they go through. But we do want to give you an idea of the types of characters that you'll meet.
Right.
So we're entering Nighthaven, and there's already conflict going on. That's what we're talking about with factions, right?
Yeah, it's already there.
It's already there.
It's already there. And we're talking about both direct
tensions
conflict
are high.
and political conflict.
Right.
And it's happening among the
Thanks for the
Upir,
sub
it's
on
happening
Twitch,
between the Upir and our, as we discussed earlier, sort of our version of the werewolves, which are the Burlar. We're coming at a time where that sort of direct conflict is sort of heating up, and the players are being brought in to conflicts that are already happening, and you have to navigate those.
Yeah, you can't trust everyone who seems to be your ally.
Oh,
That's the biggest thing to take away from it.
Yeah.
But
I wonder
some
if
of
you
your
have
other
to pick a
allies,
side
there's
or if you're going to be
also
working
another
both
faction, the Grand
sides.
Carnival, and there's a lot of kind of old magic that they possess and they're tapping into. There's an interesting element of tarot cards, which will show up.
Yeah, and players have already been introduced to the tarot cards in a video that they will have watched hopefully earlier before this came out.
Perfect.
But yeah, so they'll get to see some of that, and they don't get to see the gimmick in that video, but they do get to see some of that artwork, which was really really cool.
I need to go watch that video. I've not seen it yet.
And so that's heavily tied to one of the main characters that the player's going to meet, which is the Fortune Mother and Namkuzu, who is the leader of
No,
the
New
Grand
World is
Carnival.
not my main
Both
game.
of those
I play
designs,
many games.
were done by
I am a
Thomas
variety
Edua,
streamer.
And they contrast very heavily to our Upir characters, such as Alexi and Cecilia and Lynette.
Currently playing Ghosts of Yotei.
The color palettes are very
This
distinct,
game,
so you can immediately
Starfield,
tell
Titan
like
Quest
which
2.
group is part of which.
We're going to be playing
The
Vampire
Grand
Masquerade
Carnival's
Bloodlines
definitely
2
more
later this month,
eclectic,
Outer Worlds
definitely
2 at the
more,
end of the month.
Ceremonial, because of their kind of heavy roots with this older type of ancient magic.
And it goes back to what you were talking about earlier, where a lot of like the costumes that they're wearing are supposed to evoke a little bit about who they are,
Oh,
or a lot
absolutely.
a bit about who they
Yes.
are, right? It's their personality is also rooted in their vestment, right? So I think that we've covered this pretty well, but I do want to know, who was your favorite character to work on and why?
Cecilia.
Cecilia. Very
Oh,
quickly
she
with
looks
that one.
badass.
Why? Why Cecilia?
I think Cecilia, for a few different reasons, is the most interesting character that we have. And I won't go too deep into it. I'm excited for players to meet her and talk to her.
Alexi, I love designing Alexi.
He also looks very cool.
He's a really interesting character, and he has an interesting relationship to Cecilia. So we designed them. Alex Fuhrer designed Cecilia, and he and I designed her and Alexi concurrently. So you can see similarities between their designs, and we designed them in a certain way that reflects kind of their dynamic and shows off some of the their backstory and their own personal histories.
Yeah, their bond, as it were.
Yeah.
Right, Mike?
Sadly, I cannot talk about my favorite character that I created.
a little bit of a
because
spoiler.
All of the characters that I created, we can't talk about because you need to play.
Our three favorite characters we worked on are very closely related to each other.
Yes, so they interact with each other a lot. They're part of the grand scheme that we're going through
Oh
here.
my
So
gosh.
I can't talk about it, but I will say that I do both enjoy the returning characters that are from previous parts of New World and how they engage, as well as Alexi. Love Alexi, love the archetype that we went with and how we twisted and bended a story, a human story that's as old as time, into this like overarching narrative. It's awesome. You did a great job. But yes, I'll leave it at Alexi for now until players get to play, and then maybe you can guess which one I created. and
Oh,
what
I
is my
love
favorite. So,
that. Can there be like a little like sneaky, very high level hint?
it is.
That will be like this is the one that Mike was talking about.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it is a returning fan favorite.
Oh,
Okay.
that was good. That was good. Okay, well, on that note, thank you all for sitting down and talking about the characters of Nighthaven. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Paul, Kiana, and Mike. All right, well, let's talk about the creatures of Nighthaven. With me, I've got Chad, Krishna, Ryan, Guanchan, and Paul. So we have already talked about some of the characters that our players are going to find on their journey through this zone. Let's talk about the creatures. And Paul, we have you back with us from narrative. So is this another situation where narrative kind of defines the broad path forward for folks, or is this something where you're just kind of giving a little bit of information? Like, tell me how that process starts.
It's a framework. So we kind of come up with a basic idea. What is the fantasy that we're trying to deliver to players? Like, what do we want you to feel as you're going through the game? And part of that is the world. Part of that is the characters. Part of that is the dialogue but a big part of that is gonna be, what are the creatures I'm interacting with? Like, at the base end of the game, we're a combat game. Like, that's a lot of what people go in to do. And so we want to make sure that those creatures that are there that you're seeing, they tell that same story. They reinforce the framework that we are trying to build for the players. And so we'll come up with ideas. We'll ask for a lot of creatures, which Chad can attest to.
Yeah, so lore and narrative gave us a really fantastic foundation to build all this stuff off of. As character designers, we really love getting the images, even like rough sketches from the art team or lore notes or whatever, because those little like sparks just, they magnify out to things that we can do with combat and creatures and everything. So for this release, I just counted before this meeting, I think we have roundabouts 40 new creatures, which is pretty nutty, pretty amazing. We got all that together for this one release. It's pretty great. And we've kind of broken that down into, was it 4 or 5 kind of family groups. So we've got Upir, we've got the Berlar, we've got our Inquisitors, what we're calling kind of ghastly horror creatures, and our wildlife ones. It's a really fun cast of characters. Everybody here kind of helped build them out. And to kind of kick things off, Guanchen, you want to talk about the Upir, kind of our take on vampires of sorts?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So Upir, talking about the Upir, it is the vampire-themed creature type that the player will encounter while in the adventure in the Nighthaven. And the one of the important things we bring to this creature types is that we create a really strict tier on those creatures. The tier doesn't mean the difficulty tier. We already done that a lot in the past of our game, but it's more like something that can fit into our storyline and enhance the narrative immersive of the experience for the game. One of the good example is that we have like those thrall.
By the way, I love the outfit of this character with like whatever cloak that is.
Family, and also we have those like station noble Upir character as the high tier character in this family. And also it is our first time to bring a broad mechanic around those characters. One of the mechanics is consuming, which is the high tier Upir character. They will consume the low tier one to gain extra power. And it is also some creature to creature interaction that we really want to establish in the past. But right now, we now have a chance to show it as an open world creatures. So talking more about for the character design, for the Upir family, we will have like 10 unique characters design. And more than half of them will have new skeleton rigs, new animation sets, so they will bring a brand new experience for the combat.
Gives a lot of flavor to the different, like, various factions of Upir that exist around. Each of them sort of develop their own personality. You can see that even in the combat, which is really good stuff.
Man, this is making me want to go back to my
and that's our largest family
build
because it ties really
I'm currently
tightly
running
into
rapier and bow,
the narrative storyline all throughout.
I might have to go back to
we had a lot of fun, kind of a what is it, almost like a late Renaissance kind of look to them. They're a really fun set of characters. They're good stuff. So, and then in addition to that, we've got the Berlar, kind of our werebeast
werewolves
kind of creature set, and Christian's going to talk us through some of those.
Yes, so the Berlar is our version of how we wanted to present the werebeast family to Aeternum. This is something Paul and I enjoyed talking about a lot. So this with this family, we present 9 different variants, like specifically coming under the werewolves. Then we have the werebears and wereravens. So Paul and I often would talk about like how we want to represent them, and we thought
that's
that
pretty
rather
cool,
than
man.
more than just simply a wildlife representation, they're actually more sentient characters. So with the werewolves, you'd see them not just being simple biters, but they love swiping and attacking like how a human would love to do a swipe combo. And then we have the werebears, who are like a typical tanky character who would love to perform heavy attacks and try bashing into you.
That's pretty cool. I love the chest plate.
Wereravens.
Wereravens,
bird-person characters. Because not only are they just
so it's not just werewolves, it's different types of werebeasts in general. Oh, that's creeper.
Like it's fun to see them up in the air. Like unlike
okay, so their first hover creature.
You had these ones.
I was just going to ask you because it sounds, from someone who's hearing it for the first time, it sounds pretty similar to the Hircine, right? So we have the corvids, we have the big dudes. I forget what they're made. They're like rhinos almost, but what are they made out of?
Boars.
Yeah. They're like crazy and barrel into you. When you're running high, of like sometimes they can take out an entire group.
Yep.
So what's the like? Don't give too much away, but what's like one of the things that makes this were group different from the Hircine?
One part of it, well, lore-wise, is they represent the Angry Earth faction, and they're more primal, they represent more the wildlife aesthetic of Aeternum, whereas the werebeasts are more sentient, like actual humans because that's where they were originally from. So they were like a transformed version of that. And so that's what makes them very different from the Hercenes. So their attack style, it's very sentient and very different that you'd want to think more like they're more a person than a
Right. The Hercene are like flora and fauna, right? And then
That's a
the
good way to
werebeasts
explain it.
have a little humanity in them. Interesting.
And that's one thing we talked about when coming up with ideas for variants. Like one of our variants is a very like challenges all players by mostly staying up in the air. One of the wolves is very special in doing super combos. One of the bears always likes doing things like how a player would wield a warhammer and go into battle. And one idea Paul was very passionate about with is coming up with a certain zone where it's just infected or diseased. So based on that, we even came up with ideas for a bunch of werebeasts that are just spread disease around to anybody who comes and touches them.
The rabid ones.
Wow.
Rabid.
Yeah,
cool.
even the
Now I know
enemy-
who to blame if I go in there and it kills me. I'm going to blame Paul.
I'm okay with this. One of the things we wanted to show is that it's the creatures are dangerous, but there are things in the world that are dangerous to the creatures as well. And the rabid werewolves are sort of like an indication of that. Like what happened to them? How did they get in this state? And what additional challenges does a creature in that state actually present, not just to the player, but to each other and to the whole of Nighthaven itself.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see those werebeasts out there because, we saw Typhon, right? And he was a werewolf dude. But this is like an entire family, which we haven't been introduced to, so that's great.
And swaths of the zone.
Good fun stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of the next family, we've got the Inquisitors. Right? You want to talk us through those?
Yeah, so the Inquisitors are basically our newest arm of the corrupted family, much like how we've done like the Empress's faction in Ebonscale Reach or the 19th Legion in Brimstone. This is basically our take on like a corrupted crusade of sorts. There are 6 main characters to it that kind of play up different aspects of that. There's the cleric, who kind of has like a fire staff, healer, conjurer kind of aesthetic. There's the flamekeeper, who's kind of a bare knuckle fighter, but he also has this like really oversized like censer incense burner on his back that he uses to fight with, which is really awesome aesthetically.
So much fun.
What a description, though.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. Like you just have to see it. Otherwise, we have the Warden and Enforcer, which are kind of like our heavy swordsmen with and without a shield. And then we have the Markswoman, who's kind of akin to like our old like lost like crossbowmen, but a bit different and more themed to the Inquisitors. And then finally we have the Seraph, which is kind of this like corrupted construct that can actually do ground-based attacks, air-based attacks,
helmet.
And is just kind of a really potent enemy to go up against.
Sounds horrible. I love it.
And not quite to the same degree as like the Upier, but the Inquisitors actually have kind of an interaction between each other as well, in that they can kind of rally each other with this effect we call Rampant Flame that basically unlocks like unique attacks for them when they're working together. So it allows us to kind of like make them team up in a way that we don't always see with like direct interactions between characters. So it makes them feel more like a cohesive like unit and army. So it's
almost a snowball effect, but for fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that covers most of the Inquisitors.
Yeah, no, it's a great family. And then in addition, we've kind of got a bonus Lost family, what I like to call our ghastly horrors. These are creatures which actually populate a lot of the raid, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But this is a really fun Lost family that's themed a lot around kind of horror themes. and kind of a haunted mansion almost. They're a really fun set of creatures, really kind of horrific and scary. We even got kind of an open world Naga caster creature. He's headless, just, to make it even more fun. Why not?
Why not? Let's do it.
Really fun set of group of characters. And then to round things out, we've got our wildlife. We've got a bunch of spiders, 4 or 5 spiders, rats, foxes, reindeer. Finally got our foxes in. And yeah, I think that is the majority of kind of our common creatures. In addition to that, we've got 4 major MSQ bosses, which we won't talk too much about that because I don't want to ruin any spoilers or anything. But they're pretty great epic fights. Our team did a really great job putting those all together. And then 4 additional post-MSQ kind of challenge bosses from the Inquisitor side of things. So all in all, like, really great set of characters, a lot of fun new challenges.
That's awesome. So it's just a couple tactical questions before we close things out. So we mentioned Lost and Corrupted. Are there any other types that players are going to see that they should consider gearing up for before they approach?
Should be wildlife for Berlar, right? Am I correct on that? Yeah.
The other one is, what are the levels? What's the level range?
Oh yeah, this is a good question.
The MSQ is 65 to 70.
Okay.
The content range all the way through all the end-game stuff is all the way up to 80.
Okay, so they could be fighting some pretty big heavies that are 80.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Are we talking gold bar 80?
I mean, they don't have a skull over the head, but they probably should.
Okay, good to know. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chad, Krishna, Ryan, Guanchen, and Paul. We really appreciate
It's not a DLC, John Coons. It's not a for sale DLC. It's
the new raid,
included
the
with
Isle
New World
of
Aeternum.
Night. I've got Chad, Juan, Darren, and Krishna joining me for this conversation. Let's
So if you
just go
own New
over
World
a very
Aeternum,
high
it's
level.
part of the New World
What's the
Aeternum
raid? What's the journey?
experience.
What is the player going to be doing? What's the story?
Yeah, so
freely available to all Aeternum
format-wise
owners
is pretty
on the
similar
13th.
to Hive of Gorgons. So length and format are very similar. We got 3 bosses. We've got loads of kind of trash enemies in between, some light puzzles here and there, and it's set in an entirely new part of the world. This isolated island of night, surrounded by mist, which is really phenomenal kind of look and feel to it. Some of the best stuff that we've ever put out, I think. Kind of that. And Juan, do you want to talk about a little bit kind of the setting?
Yeah, it's gonna be a little familiar to the players because it uses a lot of like our Lost kit, but it has a little twist because it used to be like a powerful city at some point, but after everything's being destroyed, you'll see Lost and destruction together. But it's super cool. I'm excited for players to see it.
Nice. And these are the brand new, interesting mobs are in there. So there's things that people haven't seen yet that they will see in the raid.
Yeah, most of the enemies kind of lean on our what we've been calling kind of our ghastly horror creature set, as well as kind of some of our Lost Knights.
I love the lady on the throne. That was
so
cool.
The overall theming on the island is this kingdom kind of fallen to ruin. And that the actual progression through the zone is kind of battling from the docks to a fortress. Darren, you want to kind of talk a little bit about kind of the level design of it?
Sure. The thing I think the team stuck to really well was making the journey kind of upwards towards the ending tower. And the pacing is a little different from Hive of Gorgons. Hive of Gorgons was action, puzzle sequence, boss across 3 chapters. This time we decided to focus in on one real puzzle sequence that is randomized every time, so you
Sorry,
can't
that was Chris stepping in. Tell me,
learn
I
it.
think she's going downtown.
I think it came out really well.
It's pouring down rain
the team
outside.
put a lot
so.
of work into
By the way,
it.
guys, if I randomly
Yeah, and
disappear,
the
it is
kind of
pouring down rain outside. There's
overall
storms right now.
story
So
of it is
if I disappear, it'll be
this kingdom
power
that was
for the
protecting
internet.
this powerful, ancient relic.
back as soon as I can
the
if I
Spear of
do
Longinus,
disappear.
and how the rulers and the inhabitants fell lost, and the city kind of went to ruin and chaos. And now there's this new enemy there trying to seize the power of this relic and take over the island. And players, of course, have to heroically stop them. And that kind of leads into talking about some of our bosses. So as the players arrive on the docks, they're greeted by our first boss, the Jester. It's a really interesting design. Christian, if you want to talk a little bit about kind of how he looks and functions.
Well, think of it like you just walked into a carnival and ran into a random clown. That's who you're fighting.
Creepy clowns, I'll pass.
This is indeed one of our most puzzling boss fights ever. Like, not just in terms of mechanics, but even the arena itself, like a massive square footage.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's far and away the biggest boss room arena that we've ever even tried to make. It's huge. Actually, it kind of exists as 3 individual kind of boss areas. And the Jester is kind of pulling tricks and moving around between them.
A lot of tricks.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Yeah. And really requires a lot of
coordination,
teamwork to understand where they need to go and how they need to respond to all these different tricks that the Jester is pulling off. From a kind of a role and kind of what's demanded of the player side of things, we definitely wanted to keep a lot of viability across a bunch of different builds available to players. So none of the fights really demand a strict composition of players. There are a couple that are going to need, they're going to benefit from, potentially having an off tank or potentially having some ranged characters. I think we've seen some people pull off some pretty impressive stuff regardless. But I think from my perspective, I don't know, feel free to contradict me, everybody, but I think having a variety of different roles within the raid, melee, ranged, debuffing, healing, tanking.
Now, is that perspective coming from you being a tank?
Yeah.
That you have this preference of
and
maybe there's an off tank.
Maybe.
You always need a tank.
Yeah, but you will always need an off tank.
Sure.
I love DPS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But one thing I can calmly agree with Chad is, unlike, our typical expeditions or raid, this one, you'll definitely need at least 2 shot callers.
Yeah, there's a
for
lot going on in
strategic
these fights. They are some of the most challenging that we've made, I think.
They're all for people who like that kind of stuff. It sounds pretty awesome. I can't be bothered with raids anymore. I don't care about it in World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, Star Wars: The Republic, Lord of the I don't do that shit
some good
anymore.
challenges for the players.
Been there, done that.
Nice. And
It's
there was
cool for the people
actually a
who
little
enjoy it.
snippet
It looks
of
fun,
that first
but
boss
not for me anymore.
that we showed to players. They may have
I'm
caught it in the
100%
trailer.
single player
They
these
did
days.
see the Jester laughing in their faces. So no, it's going to be very cool. Is there like a mixture of enemy types in there, or is it one particular kind of enemy? We
Just
mentioned
Lost.
Lost. Okay,
Yep.
so if I'm gearing up and I'm concerned about any kind of perk I have that's nature, doesn't matter. Corrupted doesn't matter, but Lost.
Just go full on Lost.
Okay, that's good to know. I love that. Make some things simple when there's so much complexity in the rest of the fights.
Yeah.
Great. Well, this has been really wonderful, you guys. I really appreciate the time. Chad, Juan, Darren, Krishna, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
So up next, we're going to start talking about another thing we're very excited about in Season 10, which is Catacombs. So to help me
these are
with
new.
that, first up, we've got Isaac, Dan, and Lawrence. And we're going to dive into the technology that powers Catacombs, which is a procedural dungeon. So Isaac, why don't you go first and tell us about the challenges we faced?
Sure. Yeah. So when we first started thinking about how to build Catacombs, a procedural dungeon, we thought about how do we build our existing dungeons? What would we have to do to make a procedural version of that? And at first we were thinking we're going to have to set things up with a long build process, and that would only really enable us to ship 1 map a day because of the generation time. But we weren't really satisfied with that. We wanted to be able to generate maps on demand. So we had to work backwards from like what would need to be true in order for us to be able to deliver that. And so we said like, well, if we don't have to see all the way across the map at the same time, if we built in some constraints that would allow us to take more of a streaming approach, then we would be able to be much more dynamic about it and generate these maps at runtime on demand, and then you have a fresh map every time you play. So we talked about what constraints would be necessary for that. Are those constraints compatible with the design? It turns out that they were. So that's why we have things like every room in the catacombs has floor-to-ceiling
Whenever devs
walls.
wear their hoodies,
All
you
of
know
the
they're
corridors
passionate. That's
have
right.
bends in them, so you can't just see straight down the whole way. So once we established those rules, it then opened the doors for us to be able to generate maps on demand, and that's why you've got a fresh experience every time. And so then once we said, all right, here's the thing that we want to do, then it became up to Dan and Lawrence to actually make it happen. So then Lawrence, why don't you guys tell us about how you actually made that all true?
Yeah, sure. So like the first thing I wanted to do was just prove that our engine can actually make a procedural dungeon. So I just wanted to get something in the level, randomly generate it, and have the rooms connected and have the player be able to walk through it. So I looked up some basic procedural algorithms. One I stumbled across is called wave function collapse. It's just a fancy word for, it's a constraint solving algorithm. And when I got that implemented, I was able to actually get into the game and have a player run around. It was super cool. And we could make as big of a dungeon as you want, and completely random though. So when you zoom out and fly your camera up, you can see like, no, this is complete chaos. It's random.
So don't do that.
There's no control to it. If we use that, you could end up with like your start room is one room away from the boss room. Obviously that's not great. So we wanted to figure out how do we give design control of the game flow. So.
Yeah, so we really wanted to control that chaos, right? So some of the constraints or like design goals were like, maybe we only want 5 bosses, right? Or maybe we want stores before every boss, or we would want some locked gates and keys and puzzles, things of that nature. Or maybe we want to add some cycles so the player doesn't just backtrack too much.
Yeah, so going into the cycles, it's kind of a cool design concept that, you know, as you said, makes players not have to backtrack as much. It can serve multiple purposes, but like an example, the simplest form is a player enters dungeon, they go down a path, they reach the end of the boss room, and they beat them, and then when they leave that boss room, they're conveniently back at the start room and they can leave the dungeon. So that's like a simple loop. Another example is like a locked door and key puzzle. So players walk into a room, they see 2 locked doors, but then they look around, there's one room that's open, so they can go through there. And then on the other side of that room, there's a lever, and it opens that door that they were prevented from going into. And it also conveniently opened the other locked door, and now they can go through the dungeon. And then the third kind of high-level cycle concept is a forking path. So you can have, you know, a short, risky path that the players can choose to go down, or maybe there's a longer, less risk, but less reward path. Those both converge back to the same point at the end, so it allows the design still control the general flow of the dungeon.
You're just
But,
installing
still another
parameters at that point
version of
within the
cycles.
procedural elements.
Lawrence, you worked a lot with the designers on this, so I'd like you to tell us a little bit about how you work with them. What was your workflow like so that
If
you were
X
able to
equals
satisfy their
Y.
design goals while also getting that randomization in place and keeping it feeling fresh?
Yeah, so I really wanted the algorithm to carry as much of the weight as possible for design. Some of the constraints the design wanted were like, maybe they wanted like a minimum of 5 bosses, or a puzzle room that's followed by a power room, or a store before every boss, for example. And so like in order to do that, that essentially defines a mission graph. And a mission graph, it's just like a flow of things that can happen that have some logic to them, right? So an example of that is given a starting seed. A seed can be like, we have a start room followed by a gameplay cycle, followed by a boss cycle. And maybe the gameplay cycle can get replaced into a lock and gate followed by a treasure. And the boss can be replaced by a store, followed by a boss, followed by a power-up. And each iteration of this, like each one of these rooms can then get replaced further into additional cycles up until you have a 100-room dungeon.
That's pretty huge.
That is
it's
big.
pretty big. And so like part of the challenge there is like, how do you test something that's that random, right? And so like, what sort of tools did we need to create? And maybe Dan can chime in on that.
Yeah, so we definitely knew like from the start that, you know, testing and iteration is going to be a big part of this process. And when you're working with random procedural content, you know, you want to repeat the same scenario that you had before when you were testing a bug. And so the way we handled that was we had a tool that would dump the whole layout into like a JSON format. So anybody encounters a bug, they can save their layout and they can share that with anybody on
Load
the
it
team.
back up.
Or if you just had a particular layout that you thought was really interesting, you could share that across the team.
Man, I'm really glad that
And
they're
you
sharing
could-
this stuff
Anybody
with
could
people,
load
'cause
that
this
up and
gets
repeat
in-
the same exact
Here,
dungeon.
I gotta go
so
back
that was
over
really
here to
critical for our iteration.
I'm standing up and
The other
I'm
really cool
leaning
tool was
over
the debug visualization of the dungeon. So
that graph that they just showed, for those of you who have never worked in game design, that was really cool because it's showing you, that was literally the layout of a dungeon, room by room by room by room by room. So this is the secret sauce. These two guys have put in hundreds, potentially thousands of man hours to get this algorithm the working that they get it working the way that they want it to work for the game that they're building here, for the game that they have going. And they're essentially showing you how this is being made. Now, for the the average person who only gives a shit about does it look good? Is it pretty? Oh, those animations suck. Why can't it be 60 frames per second? They're not going to understand what's being talked about right here because they are smooth brains and it's just going to go right over the top. But for the people who care about how this stuff is made, this is how we get cool shit. Because guys like this get together and brainstorm, and then you could have a graph like they just showed when they find a bug. That gets shared out between the team members. They replicate the bugs, they squash the bugs, they move on to the next iteration. I'm so happy that they're showing this kind of stuff. Again, 99% of the people who watch this, they're not going to give a shit, but there's going to be a core audience who do care about this stuff.
same thing, we would send that JSON format to your client, and we'd be able to render all the rooms and the layout on your screen. And this made it really easy for designers
There's
to
that layout
iterate
again.
because they could go into their database and tweak some numbers and
That's the
their
dungeon.
seed graphs, and then they could press the generate
That's every
layout
room in the
button.
dungeon. That's so cool.
And like at the press of the button, they generate a whole new 100-room map, and they could just keep doing that and iterate and see results instantly. So that was really critical for our process.
And again, that was only possible because we decided to go with that dynamic approach and not the offline overnight build approach. So it all worked together to get us some really efficient workflows.
Yeah, so it's really been, because it was pretty early on when we first got like that first version of it working with just like totally random, and it's been really cool to see all of this stuff get built over time, and it's kind of been like fun from day one, but it just gets funner and funner and funner. So I think you all just crushed it, did amazing work on this thing. It's a great job.
Thank you.
And well, that just leaves talking about the design of the mode itself, so we'll get into that next. So with that, we're going to start talking more deeply about the design of Catacombs, the mode, and to help me with that, we're bringing back Darren, Nix, and Chad. And so when we dive in here, let's talk about the goal for the mode, which was replayability, right? We have dungeons, we love dungeons, we wanted to know what a more replayable version of dungeons would be like. Chad, why don't you start?
Yeah, so kind of to your point, I mean, I think one of the most interesting aspects of this game mode when we first started talking about it was taking all these pieces that we have from the game and turning it into a really dynamic format that's going to be different every time you do it, that's going to be a relatively short duration, where it's a 30-minute timer, so it's a capped experience length. Kind of random generation, variety of enemies.
When he says 30 minutes, is that
everything
I
that
don't
we've
see any
got,
timers on.
basically,
Yes, I do. There's a
or
timer on
nearly
the top
everything.
right.
As
So
much as
you're
we
going to
could
have
squeeze
30
into
minutes
this
to
build.
complete,
And
essentially.
and yeah, given players,
There is a timer countdown on the top right.
a little bit of a smaller, more intimate experience. So only 3 players max.
3-player max.
But allowing people get in very quickly. We don't want people sitting around waiting for a queue to pop for minutes or hours or anything.
Speaking of which, is there a queue?
When you queue up,
thank you.
If you're the only one, you go in. I think within a minute, pretty much. And then you'll get backfilled people as they become available.
So you can go in by yourself.
So we really want to kind of speed up the experience of getting in and doing a dungeon crawl, and really leveraging all these assets and really cool things that we've got from the game. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces to it. There's a lot to talk about. But Darren, you want to talk about kind of the flow a little bit once you're inside?
Sure. So getting to approach this as a level designer was like super interesting. There was a ton of learning that we did along the way. The vision for it was to make it like a true dungeon crawl with some exploration, which is at tension with the timer, and have the tool set which tech is talking about that allows for that. The reward loop became very important in this flow. The aspects and ascension moments, and there's a lot of kind of back and forth about that as we develop those systems.
A lot reiteration.
No, we did. It was wonderful to get it playable as early as it was, so we could play test it and iterate and try things.
Yeah, and I guess getting back to the level design, right? Like we made a static map, we made it out of tiles, we started jumping in there, finding where the fun was. We adjusted tile size along the way, which was kind of a big deal at the time. For me personally, it was like a really rewarding process of getting to, it was such a robust team. There were so many talents on the team. I got to really focus down on level design, which is my passion, and I think we delivered on this, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah. So similar to Darren, I've been doing a little bit on the level design and also touching a lot of the other areas because mainly I wrote the document and drove the implementation of many aspects. And as a team, we really want to put this game mode together as a complete game loop, a self-contained experience, and that starts with matchmaking all the way from combat.
I'm going to have to do some catacombs. I don't normally do group-based stuff, but if the queue system works this well, and they're quick little 30-minute things,
before the extraction,
I
are just wandering around the dungeon. Every path can be a viable path.
I don't give a shit about
raids. There is no golden path. There is no
but these are small little
clear sense of direction. You're kind of just discovering the bosses popping up around the map one by one, and then plan your way as you move forward. So the moment you defeat a boss is where you can start an extraction. You can start an extraction after you beat one boss, two boss, all the way to many bosses. You can choose to go pursue another boss, even if there's not much time left on the timer. We do have a 30-minute timer for this extraction. So yeah, make sure that you're going for as much reward as possible before you extract, but don't die on the way. And also, since we figure out some of the tactics
they keep
ourselves,
mentioning
I'm
extract,
pretty sure,
so it's like an extraction
players are smart. They're gonna find out a lot of cheesy tactics. One of my favorite is, what if the 3 players on the team just split up and challenge different bosses at the same time? Because after you beat the first boss, the entire dungeon, including the next bosses, do get progressively stronger. So, which means if we all beat 3 bosses at the same time, they will all be relatively easier. But you'll make sure that nobody dies in the process.
Right.
If you can time it right.
The dungeon is 3 times harder from that point on.
Yeah.
So that's a tactic. I think what's really interesting about Catacombs as well, kind of to your point, is we're not enforcing kind of the holy trinity of archetypes in this particular mode.
Does that mean anybody can queue?
Log in, when you join up, it could be 3 players doing a DPS role. It could be
you just answered the question. Awesome.
2 players doing healing. It could be 2 tanks, 1 tank, no tanks. There's a variety of different roles that you might be matched with. So your tactics
if you
are
look at World of
change
Warcraft's
based
queue
off
system,
who you're
it won't let
playing
you go
with.
in with 3 tanks.
And then we've also
it has to be a
got
tank, healer,
the power
DPS.
ups that'll let you kind of tweak your role a little bit.
You can do whatever you want here.
So we call it aspects. What it allows is to gives you a lot of utility skills, 18 in total, that partially transform your role from your current role to somewhere either more extreme or more well-rounded. So for example, if we got a team full of 3 DPSs, usually I'll be like, oh, we're screwed, right? Let's just start another match. But at the beginning and throughout the matches, you do get these aspects one by one, and some of the aspects, like the aspect aspect of Paladin allows you to heal all your teammates, when they're relatively far away from you, even with every hit you do. So you kind of transform your role into being sort of like semi-healer. And let's take a mage as an example. If I am in a mage build and both of my teammates are DPSs, I can either go all out on a mage build, or I can go for a paladin / reaper build to empower my teammates and let them heal throughout my combat, or I can even choose aspects such as mana ward and all of the spell warden aspects to make myself a semi-tank. I will do relatively less damage, but I will have incredible tanky moment-to-moment these moments. And yeah, so I'll basically tank a lot of monsters to enable my teammate to do the damage.
And just so it's clear, because it's a bit clear from context, but what are aspects and ascensions?
So the ascensions are effectively health and damage increases.
Yeah.
I think we did, 10%?
Yeah.
So the players are increasing their health and power through the ascensions. And as you mentioned earlier, every time you defeat a boss, they get a large jump in health and damage as well. So the player is kind of trying to keep up with the bosses through ascensions, while the bosses are also increasing in their
So
power.
it's power-ups
There's
as you go
6
through.
potential bosses within a Catacombs run. The rewards increase significantly for each boss that you manage to defeat. There's 2 resources that you might get out of it. There's sterling as well as crowns. The sterling you're getting for every single boss. The crowns start at boss 2 and ramp up from there. As far as difficulty progression goes, the way we've kind of our concept of the tuning is to effectively make it such that the first boss and probably the second boss are pretty approachable for the average player. For most players, they'll probably be able to take out 1 and 2 bosses pretty consistently. The third is probably where a casual player is going to get a little friction. They're going to be starting to run out of time. It's going to be a little bit tight, a little bit tough. For more hardcore players, we're probably expecting them to be able to knock out 4 or 5 bosses.
Don't ever underestimate the power
don't
of
ever
hardcore
underestimate
players.
the power
They'll
levelers.
probably beat boss 6 in the first day.
They might. It's possible.
Yeah.
That 6th boss is really, really ramped up in power and everything. So I think you got to have just a really clean, really, really good run to get that in time. Because remember, you're always fighting the time. As well as just not getting hit, because that thing just hits like a truck.
Well, I think it came together great, and we hope you agree when you get
Yeah,
a
I mean,
chance
the
to play it
system
soon.
sounds cool.
Don't forget to check out all the cosmetics you can buy using crowns.
Yeah, cosmetics,
those are pretty
baby.
cool cosmetics.
And last but not least, we are going to talk about the Season Pass and Endgame Progression Overhaul for Season 10. To help me out with that, we've got Joel, we've got Hurley. Sorry, Josh. I always call you Hurley.
I usually go by Hurley because there's too many Joshes.
Hurley. And finally, JR.
Hello.
So let's get cracking. We have so much to talk about. We'll tee it up with the easy one first. The Season Pass.
Absolutely. So this Season Pass is oversized. Most Season Passes have 1 or 2 armor sets. This one has 4. And a couple other things on top of that. We're bringing back a mount to this Season Pass.
Nice.
Some of the coolest
What's
skins
the
I've
mount?
seen are in this pass
What's
as
the
well. And I
mount?
say that a lot, but really, I'm really excited for a few of these. But I want to ask you guys, what are you excited for in this specifically?
Fox mount.
Fox
That is a
mount?
great one.
What?
There's no other foxes in the game, so that is something that you're going to get. I think it's 100 in the
that's a
pass, but I have to
must-have.
double check
Fox
that.
mount is a
Really
must-have.
nice to have mounts back in the pass. What about you guys?
I like the Celestial Seraphim set.
That's another great one.
Hard one to say. It's a hard one to say, but it's a cool
Fox
looking set.
mount for me.
Mine is the Cosmic Moon set. It has a really dope face.
SFC
That
Grumpy
is my
asks, is it
favorite.
available now or
Like,
next
the
season? It
cape
starts
on
on
that
the
one
13th.
looks
October
wonderful.
13th is
We're
when
going to have screenshots in the video right here, so you should
drops.
see it right about now. Right? Yes. Cool.
That was a
Thank
cool
you.
looking set, by the way.
Really
I
look
got
forward to seeing what you
sidetracked
guys think about these.
answering
I
chat,
think you're
but
going to be
that's,
pleasantly surprised. I think our artists killed these items. So
13th.
keep an
So
eye out
in
for
like
this.
a
There's
week?
some really cool stuff in this
A
pass.
week-ish?
More than what you've
Today's
seen in
the
most of the other
6th, I
passes.
think?
Nice. Yeah, and so, well,
See, about a week out. Yeah, I need that mount too, Jay. I gotta have a Fox mount.
The announced blog post is already live. You've all seen it, so that does a pretty good job of like listing out all of the stuff. I'm glad that that's out because there's so much to talk about. We're probably going to forget a couple of things, but we'll start from the very, very top level. So somebody, and I won't say who, already accidentally said that we're raising our gear score.
I don't know what you're talking about, right? 800?
If you hadn't heard.
Yes, 800 gear score. There's a lot of sweeping changes in here. There's a few things we really wanted to hit. We're going to talk about a lot here. This is a very meat and potatoes segment for the in-game progression. Some of the goals that we really wanted to hit for this is we wanted to make sure we felt like even some of the older gear still stayed viable. So yes, we're adding new systems, we're adding set bonuses, infix, we're going to get into those. But we also wanted to make some of the old gear, like the illegal perk combos, still feel viable so you can level those up. So we really focused with the Umbral system to allow all gear to be leveled up. And again, we'll talk about more details on that in a second. But I do want to call out that Umbral is not a crafting system. It is a contextual menu. You click on a piece of gear, you right click, and you can upgrade anything that's gear score 700. It doesn't matter what it is. Everything that's 700 plus is upgradable. So there's a lot of questions on Reddit. There's a lot of questions in the YouTube
I have
videos.
Questions too.
But I want to clarify that if you have a piece of gear, if you use your some of your lower level stuff, if you make some Gorgonite stuff, all of it can be turned to gear score 800.
To clarify though, it's not all items, right? It's just like armor, weapons.
Yes.
Right?
Gear.
Armor, weapons, jewelry. You can't upgrade your trinkets, you can't upgrade your bags. Thank you, that is a great call out. You can't upgrade your musical instruments, but you can upgrade your weapons, your armor, and
all
your
of your
jewelry.
gear,
If it hits 700, it's good. So all of those old crafting recipes still work. Anything that puts you at 700 plus, artifacts, you guys were asking about those. That's another thing. You can upgrade all of those to 800 as well. All of those items remain viable. So there is some combinations of old stuff that is still good. Some of them are traps. Yes, you don't want to upgrade everything. You want to be very careful. We'll talk more about Umbral in a little bit in the segment there. I think we have it on the list here. I want to make sure everyone's aware that everything can be upgraded. It is not, you don't go to a crafting station. You just click on the item and you can go to the menu and upgrade it with Umbral, which is a currency, and we'll talk about all those details in a little bit. That means anything you get, go for it. 700 plus, have fun.
Why don't we, so the couple of things we did want to mention before we dive into the rest of the way would be small details like attributes. Can we explain attributes?
Yes, so we've adjusted the way attributes work as a whole. We've pulled out all the perks that used to be on the attributes like Soldier, Ranger. Those are all pulled off of all the existing items, and all attributes are purely gained through leveling and the consumable foods that grant attributes.
And we added more attributes to leveling.
Yeah,
right?
there's no power loss.
You still have the same amount of attributes.
We did adjust it, so there's a little bit less total attributes, and that's basically to not allow you to be like a tank DPS person together. So there's a little bit less. I think previously you could get up to like 735-ish. Now it's around like 530-ish. So you can't go 500 dex and 200 strength anymore. So that was done because we've also increased the scaling. Adjusted the scaling on all the weapons.
Pulling this back
so all the weapons that previously only had one attribute that they scaled with now have two.
This is going to have a lot of people crying.
Kind of adjusted amounts of how much
you
the
nerfed
two
my
scales
build.
with, and so it
No,
allows,
it's called balance.
Wider
it's called
variety of build combinations and kind of making it so you can customize where your attributes go, and those you can
so
kind
I'll
of
have to respect
fine-tune it
my
to
character,
maximize any potential combination you want.
We also want to talk about the perk pass that you did.
There was one perk specifically, the Hardy perk on rings. It was basically just if that perk wasn't on an item, there's no point in having that. So we have deprecated the perk and replaced it with some kind of alternative perk functionality. And then we've adjusted the player's base functionality to just work as if everyone had Hardy. So you still have 100 max stamina,
definitely needed
but all the
change.
dodge
There was
costs were
definitely
slightly adjusted to basically
Which any game that's been out for several years is going to have
before becoming
and
exhausted
needs this kind of change.
for light and medium, and then you still have the 2 for heavy.
Every game I've ever played has done this.
Dodging is super satisfying, so everyone can dodge freely now without the Hardy perk.
Let's dive into Umbrals the rest of the way.
Absolutely. So like I said, you can upgrade anything from 700 plus. It is a menu. You click on the item and it shows up in the contextual menu. Right now, we said in the announced article, I think it was 1,000 cap. That's lacking context. I want to go into that a little bit more. I think we actually changed it the other day. I want to say it's 4,000 right now. But really, the meat and potatoes, the intent is that we want to be able to give you from 730 to 800, we want to let you upgrade 5 items a week fully. The ramp for upgrades is exponential in the sense of the higher you go in gear score, the more it costs. Right now, with the current weekly cap, the target is 5 items total if you go from 730, which is the bottom, to 800.
By the way, for people who play
if
like
you're
me,
looking at more
and you're just
time to
playing
experiment,
story,
you can get
this
10
doesn't
790s and you can get 15
This is
780s
only for
and still be
players who
fairly
are going to be
competitive.
doing raids
So if you're looking at
and like
experimenting more,
wanting to
you
do
can
the
kind of pick and
challenge
choose
levels
and
of the
try and then
catacombs.
fully
This isn't
get
going to
the rest
matter
of
for
the
people
things
like
up.
me who
So
are casual
you want a
people.
full set of 10 items at 790, you can do that the first week, or if you really want to pick and choose, I got a perfect
But
roll
this is
on
for the
something,
people who go
you can
all
go
in
do
and
that
want to play the
instead.
end game.
It really allows a little bit more flexibility. You don't blow through all of the content. We ripped the rate limiters off a lot of other loot drops as well. So if I go into the raid, there's no longer a weekly drop limit. I can go do the raid over and over and over again. So if I want to save some umbral, every single time I kill one of each of the 3 bosses in the raid, I will get 2 set items. I think the first boss is jewelry, the second boss is armor, and the third boss is weapons. So there's a couple sets in that piece of content. I can go do that. Same with Catacombs, there's multiple sets there, and then there's the PvP reward track that has multiple sets, which again, I can go do any PvP content and get those items. Sets will be a bigger chase there. We've built the system in a way that because Umbral allows everyone to scale to 800, it creates a ceiling for us that allows us, if we ever add sets, it's not going to be disruptive to the old sets. It's more about building a play style so that we can have new sets introduced that
That's a good
changes it
design
up.
philosophy.
The perk charms, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well, is another avenue there where it allows us to rebalance things without really painfully hurting the player, because now they can switch that perk charm out to something new as things get changed. So with that, with the ceiling and with the perk charms, it really allows us to kind of mess with gear in a way that allows things to ebb and flow as content comes and goes, and allows us to build on the system without cannibalizing older pieces.
Let's dive into perk charms then, as you said. Why don't you guys take it that way?
Yeah, sure. I'll start us off. So the goal with the perk charm system was basically to give players more flexibility in customizing their builds, right? But we wanted the charms to also be kind of like we wanted like a gameplay loop of just acquiring them, actually. So they're going to be craftable. You're going to collect materials from a variety of content that we've spread throughout all of our existing content. And each recipe will take three materials from out of 11, as well as chromatics. So the chromatics you already have, you can use, and we lower the price of chromatics as well.
Yeah, the chromatics are 2,000 gold right now, and they no longer have a weekly limit, so you can buy as many as you want. So you can just keep getting them from, I think the faction shop is what it is, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's
still pricey, but not something that's terrible, and you can get a lot of those without having to worry. And that will be one of the bigger coin sinks for this.
Yeah, and we have 4 types. So gems we already had, and those continue to be slottable as before. We did do some balance on gems, which you can get into when we get to that. And then we have offensive charms that have more offensive utility, defensive, and then skill are like the ability perks that we had before are now always slottable. So the idea is you can mix and match those like freely.
Yeah, and previously those weapon mastery perks were actually not too desired on items, because when you're like making a set and you get a roll and it's like a chess piece with a Warhammer perk on it, if you weren't using a Warhammer, it'd be kind of a waste of a drop, and it was just an instant scrap. So now you'll have a slot, and you can fill that slot with whatever ability for that specific weapon you want out of the 12 active abilities. You can just pick one and just go with it and mix up whatever builds, and it makes it way easier to pivot, and it creates really interesting combinations.
On top of that, the way that perk charms roll is that you can get a mix and match. I think you can only ever get 1 gem socket, if I remember correctly, but you could potentially get 2 offensive sockets. Sometimes they're populated when you get that roll in that item. And I do want to call out, we set up to 4 sockets. That includes gems. So when it rolls, it could be a gem slot, 2 offensive slots, and a weapon skill slot. The only way to get the 4 socket items is from M3s. You can craft 3 sockets, you can find 3 sockets in the world, but M3s are the only place to get the 4 sockets. So that will be desirable content, because that's going to allow for the most flexibility in some cases. And I think that there's really amped up power to some of those sockets. and players are going to look for that customization to mix and match with some of the other pieces.
Again,
or maybe
that's
even ignore
like
sets
in-game progression
completely,
for the
which
people
we'll
who
get
wanna
into
go
in a little
all
bit
out.
because of some of the trade-offs.
The idea was like, some people might say, oh, like you always want a set bonus. Like that isn't necessarily true. It totally depends on what build you're going for. Also, because the perks that are available as charms are different from those that are available as fixed, which are different from the infixes, which we can also get into.
Yeah, the fixed are basically what the old perks were, where it's just a specific perk on an item that you can change.
You should expect one or two fixed perks on most items. Some more obviously if there's less sockets, but those are the filler when there's not a lower roll of 2 sockets or 3 sockets going to have 2 fixed perks on it, which is the old system.
Well, you mentioned set bonuses. Why don't we dive into set bonuses?
Okay, I'll jump in from there. Yeah, so set bonuses, similar to what you've seen in probably a lot of other games, it's the more items of a certain set you equip, you end up unlocking tiers of that set bonus. And
I love set
most
bonuses,
of the tiers
man.
on the first tier of it are 2 and 4, and the second is 4 or 5, or 2 and 3, or 4 and 5. Yeah, and so you could mix and match, so you could just get 5 of one set, 5 of another set, and have them both activate at the same time. Or if you don't want to get the full, all the tiers, you could only unlock one specific tier of them.
One of them has a 1, right?
Yeah, one set does have a 1 bonus. It makes sense contextually based on how it works, but that one's a fun set. But that one has the biggest trade-off. Yeah, Enrage set. That one has the biggest trade-off, but it also, I think, can lean into the most offensive power. So we added the trade-off to kind of make it more interesting. But that's where the set bonus is pretty cool, because you could actually, with it 1, 3, and 5, you would actually just get like 1 and 3 and not get the 5 bonus, and then free up some other set bonuses to combine with.
Can we give them, the viewers, what that set is? Do you know?
Yeah, so the Enrage set, the first tier of it, you basically, every time you hit a target, you gain a damage bonus, but you also take additional damage, half of what the damage bonus is. So I think, I don't remember the exact values, but I think it was you get a 2% damage bonus per stack, and then a 1% increased damage taken per stack.
So
and
don't
then
get hit.
That goes up to 10 stacks, and then the additional tiers will increase that to 15 and 25 stacks. And then they also have additional benefits where you gain more stacks quicker based on different attacks. And then all the infixes for that bonus will actually lean into that and give you benefits. So one of my favorite ones is, I like to use dodging offensively, and not many people do that, but like when you're chasing someone and you try and burn a dodge to get them, it can sometimes give you a disadvantage. So there's an infix on that where you actually, as you finish your dodge, it'll actually trigger an AoE that pulls enemies in nearby you.
Oh, that's pretty dope. So you can roll into them and pull them in.
Infixes are really strong perks that can drop in certain areas of the game with those set pieces,
cool.
sometimes on them, sometimes on normal pieces of gear with just sockets and not the set bonuses. And it's going to be kind of a way for you to mix and match some of those sets with normal items.
Also,
or
Jay,
you
like
really
it's only
want
been out
the
for 3
infix
months,
that's on this
so they've got
ring
a
or this,
lot of catching up to do, whereas this has
chess
been out
piece
for 3 years.
You know, the Berserker set, you're going to want to find that piece that goes to your play style. So the bonus that Hurley just talked about might be
There's
on
a big patch
only,
coming on Tuesday, actually.
a
I need
ring
to
piece.
check
So you need
tonight,
to make sure that you build that way
Tonight's the big patch.
accordingly.
We'll be
and
playing
that
Dune
makes it
Awakening
interesting
tomorrow,
when you're
everybody.
pairing the
Stay
different
tuned.
sets together
We'll
to make
start
sure,
off with
well,
Ghost of
I like
Yotei in the
Berserker, but
morning,
only with
and
this
then
one
I'll move
infix.
into
So
Dune
now I need to
Awakening
make sure that that's
after I
populated
drop
in
my
that gear
grandniece
set.
off at
We should
school,
also mention
because
that
I got to
with
do
set
some base
bonuses,
maintenance tomorrow,
in
and I
some
need to
games
check
you might
the
have
new
seen
patch
like
stuff.
it's like only these 5
I don't know if the
pieces of
Dune
the
Man
set,
set's
and you
in
have to
yet,
collect
but
all 5. Like it's a lot more. There's a lot
quality
more
of life
freedom
stuff
in our
coming
system.
tomorrow.
So like basically you can just pick whatever item types you want. But the infixes, like you pointed out, might be only for specific item types.
So adding to that, that's a really good call out. The set bonuses, we'll use the Berserker one. It comes across all weapons. You can get a life staff with that Fury set bonus if you really wanted the Berserker set bonus, and you can mix it.
Enrage set bonus.
Excuse me, Enrage set bonus. You can mix it with a chest piece. You can mix it with legs. You can have 3 pieces of jewelry, a weapon, and boots, and that's it.
This is going to be
and it really
where the
creates some of
meta
that customization. But where it starts to
of
get locked
things
down is
gets
I really
really
want that
nuts.
infix.
I
so I'm
probably
going to
won't
take this
be
one
diving
piece, maybe
too
with
much
that
into
set or
this
not,
kind of stuff.
to
I
empower
am
my bit.
intrigued by set
and some of
bonuses,
those
though, just for my
infixes actually
character.
compete with similar
But
functionalities
I'm
for
not
other
gonna be
set
doing
bonuses.
in-game
So,
in New World,
like if you have
so-
a chest piece on both the Enrage set and like there's an Overcharge set, which also
This
does
is definitely for the people
similar
who plan
to
on
Enrage,
raiding
but
and
function a little bit different.
doing lots of
if
the
you want the chest piece
catacombs.
on both, you can't have it, so you'll have to choose between those 2
I'll just be
infixes
casually
and then
looking for something
switch
that
out
gives
the
me
other gear you
cool
want for other ones, and
bonuses
basically
for
lean
my
into
rapier
trade-offs and
range
benefits
build.
and what can maximize all the other perks and enhance your entire build together.
Infixes are basically they used to be exclusive to artifacts, right? Like that was kind of how we defined artifact functionality. So
now we've made infixes available elsewhere. But question for you, Josh, is like, what are we doing for artifacts in the new update?
Oh, there's a pretty good amount. So we've done a pass through a good amount of them and kind of changed some of the balance and functionality. We've tried to enhance some of the lesser used ones by giving them additional things. Some of them we realized that like they weren't just a number change that could buff it, or it wasn't like the functionality was good there, but it just needed a little bit more. So one example is like unmoved. There was one where you just can't be knocked back or like pushed or pulled, and that functionality is pretty good to avoid getting hit by like scorpion sting, but we wanted to give it a little bit more, so we made it so now when you're unmoved, you also deal damage to the target hitting you, so you can reflect some of that damage back at them.
That's cool.
We've also, for all the artifacts that scaled on converted the attribute scaling, we've actually adjusted those to now override their attributes entirely. So one example is the Life Taker. It was a Void Gauntlet artifact, and it had attribute conversion that allow it to scale off of dexterity. And what we've done now is it no longer has focus scaling, and it's and dexterity scaling at an equal tier, and it just kind of changes the way you use the weapon.
Well, and we also, the last perk, didn't we make that a slot as well on artifact, or did we?
Oh yeah, we've changed up all the perks that are actually on the artifacts too. They all have the new versions of all the ones. If there was an old version,
there will be
into
some
the new
kickback
charm
to some of this. You're going to have some players who are going to cry about how the old system was better, but ultimately this all sounds
randomly rolled, and then you could choose.
Sounds great to me, but
is now just a slot.
I'm always going to side with the developers.
That makes sense for whatever item it is. So it's more offensive item, it's an offensive slot. If it's a defensive one,
balance
it'll be a defensive
for the win.
slot.
Balance for the win.
Yeah, just switched up the other perks that are on them. Since we've also removed the attributes from all
yeah,
items,
I'm very interested in what Funcom is going to do long term for
it's just that
J for sure.
Quote artifact infix up at the top.
I don't really do end game, so
and for clarity, that is the existing one. So if I already have those items, that's going to replace my old perk.
What's up, Bubbles?
Yes. Okay, yeah, so we have pivoted the weapon scaling. So previously you would see it where it had like.
By the way, folks, I am going to be playing New World Tournament after this is over.
Strength.
This is getting towards the end.
We've adjusted those another kind of just a tier, a number or a letter to make it make a little bit more sense. So S tier is from 91 to 100. B tier is from 81 to 90, or 81 to 90, 90.09999 or whatever. But we've tried to basically make it a little bit more easy to understand the power. But one reason we've done that is to basically allow for the attribute overriding system. So yeah, if you see an item that normally scales on one or two attributes, we can now override that, and it scales on two entirely different attributes, and we can lean into that system and kind of change functionality a bit to make it feel more exciting.
So there's one other thing that we didn't actually put in the article that we've shared. So this is something that actually I think we released this in the first seasonal server that we did. It was just available, but there's a heart rune in this update. It's the spinning swords and
Phantom Blades.
Oh, the Phantom Blades.
Yeah.
That's the dev name, I think.
Yeah, the back end was spinning swords until we came up with a cooler one.
Yeah. So tell us about that heart.
Yeah, so that one, we actually wanted to kind of lean more into like stealing stuff from the enemy NPCs that are in the game or the enemy AI. And so there was one Dynasty one that basically summoned these like red glowing swords that spin in place, and it just looked awesome and it'd be a really fun thing for player to use. So that's now a heart rune, and you trigger them on you, and they just periodically do damage where they're placed. And then the perks have interesting benefits to them. So one of them, it moves forward similar to like Firestorm. Another one ends up sticking to you, so it follows you around, and that works really well for like Whirlwind on the Great Axe, so you can just spin and double up the amount of spinning you do. And then we've added a new effect called Sluggish, where it's really good for kind of chasing, running away players, where if you hit them with the spinning swords, it'll inflict Sluggish. It'll prevent them from dodging for just a couple seconds unless they attack you. So it's a thing where if they're running away, it's powerful, but if they're actively engaging in combat, it won't really have that big of a benefit.
There's more. There's got to be more. We'll regret it as soon as we're done. But
we have a small reward from that. We've definitely heard you on some of the chase rewards. We added some fun items into the raid as well. I think I'm not 100%, but if I remember correctly, they're 0.5% chance to drop, so they're fairly rare. Each boss in the raid has one item. The first boss has a really cool hat. The second boss has a mount. It's this spectral horse. I'm going to give that one away for free. It's really cool. It's my favorite mount. The third one has another mount. The final boss I think it's something that players are going to absolutely love, but I'm not going to spoil that one. It's interesting, and it's in line with some of our more popular mounts that I think that we can thank you
Mounts
for
are good,
what
man.
that one is.
Mounts are
but I'm
always
not going to
good.
give that one away. The other thing,
Joel's the mount.
Yeah, right. I know it's Thorpe. You can ride on Thorpe's back. We had that at one point in debug, and it was wonderful, but it's not that. With that being said, these items are tradable too. So if you get more than one, you can sell them to other
on the
players.
broker.
They are super rare. And then
yeah,
crafting, we also want to
0.5%
mention
drop
that
chance.
all of the perk charms are crafted. You might get a rare drop, but it's pretty uncommon that it'll be socketed in your item or you get the perk charm itself. There is some amount of trade skill you'll need. I think there's 3 different trade skills for the perk charms, but the offensive ones take a different trade skill. The defensive ones and the weapon each take a different trade skill. It's like weapon smithing, armor smithing, and another one. And that will be something that will funnel a lot of crafters into that loop. You can also craft 3 socket items again. So you'll be able to roll those over and over and over again to kind of look for the stuff in the perks.
I know what
and
we're
the
doing as soon
mix
as we get locked
of
into the game. We're
perk
going to be
charms that you might want on those
grinding
things.
my
Well, I think we've covered about as much as we
harvesting
should go for here. Like I said, I think there's probably details we've left out, but I hope we have had a lot of fun putting all this together. You've all outdone yourselves. It takes all of the great stuff that works in New World, it mishmatches it all up in new ways. There should be tons for all of the build crafters out there to figure out.
Oh yeah, this will be the
goal,
meta.
Right, is like the meta. Like we want it to be more of a fluid meta with things that we could change and mix up.
When we change out the gear, it shouldn't make the rest of the gear invalidated. It should just be a different collection. I should be able to feel like I'm still viable. And I think we lost a lot of that in the past. Every time we'd go up from 700 to 725, all that old stuff was gone. This system safeguards that and makes it so everything stays viable. You don't come back at a later point and feel like everything is worthless now and I have to go chase the new thing. You should always stay viable because of Umbral, because of the perk charms. And it's fairly easy to change if not.
Yeah. All right, well, go break stuff.
Go break
Well,
stuff.
thank you for joining us for the Season 10 Deep Dive. We're super excited to bring you Nighthaven. Thank you, everybody, for digging into all the features, all the content. All the players are super excited to play as well. And I guess the last thing to say is, we'll see you in Nighthaven!
On the 13th, it's not too far away. We're almost there, everybody. All right, so that's going to be the end of the developer update. We're going to move over to some actual New World Aeternum gameplay now.